Okay, question. When was the last time you've used your brain? Like actually used it? Welcome back to BIZember. Today is day 3 of my 1-month BIZember series, which will help you make 2020 your most productive, most successful business year of your life. Now, just a little disclaimer, I'm really sorry about the background. It's really bright, and I'm also sorry if you hear any car noises. My Airbnb in Lisbon here is not the most perfect when it comes to recording videos, but I have to make the best out of the situation. So I have my mic set up, I have the camera set up, and now we're just gonna roll and try to make the best out of the situation, okay? Growth mindset. So we're today in week 1, and week 1 is all about rewiring your brain. And in order to do that, you need to understand how your brain works. So the most important thing that you have to understand about your brain is that it's not thinking, it's doing. Your brain always runs on autopilot, and this autopilot comes from your behavior, from your routines, from your rituals, from your habit. That's how it's being trained to run on a certain autopilot. So if you don't have bad habits, or if it's really difficult to you to start things, or talk positively, have an open mindset, have a growth mindset in particular, it basically goes down to how you've programmed your brain over the period of the last years even. I said in a video yesterday that if you want to increase your tendency towards a growth mindset, it really can happen in a snap. But with your brain, it's a bit of a different story because you have programmed it over time, and it really needs rewiring in order for you to be more efficient, in order for you to be more successful, in order for you to believe that you can actually achieve all of the things that you want. Because I like to think of it that most of us really stand in our own way, and that is not with our physical body, it's really with our mindset, with our mental work, with our mental development. And that is the reason why I'm a growth mindset coach, because I have really understood that whatever it is I want to achieve, my brain needs to believe in it first. My brain is really the one top tool that I have to turn anything that I want into reality and experience it firsthand as soon as possible. So really, your brain is not thinking, you are the one who's thinking actively. Your brain is just doing. Because what it literally wants to do, first of all, it wants to make you happy. It wants to keep you alive for as long as possible. And in order to do that, it has to run on autopilot to really have enough energy for all of the vital functions of your body. And the key word here is really energy, because what your body is doing is it wants to save as much energy as you can, because it needs the energy to keep you alive. So obviously it wants to save as many calories as it can and use them efficiently. So saving calories is really a way of self-protection. And I've already said that in my podcast episode. I do really repeat a lot of things because I have understood how your conscious mind works, how your subconscious mind works. So repetition, it's like the same thing with consistency, is the key for you to get information into your subconscious and change the way your brain works or thinks on its autopilot setting. So again, change is really difficult for your brain because change involves a process, and this process will also require more calories because it's not running on autopilot, it's an effort. So it's really difficult for your brain because again, it wants to save the energy. So it's automatically pushing against the effort of you trying to change something, of you trying to learn something, because it's kind of, you could say, out of its comfort zone. And that's why, first of all, you have to understand the difference between your conscious mind and your subconscious mind. The subconscious is really the thing that fuels us throughout our day. It fuels our thoughts, it fuels our actions, and it especially fuels our routines, our habits, the things that we do on autopilot. Because again, those are the things that your brain wants to do. It wants to save the energy. And the thing is that, while the subconscious mind is really good, it keeps running things on autopilot without you having to think about it. Things like digestion, things like your blood being pumped through your veins, things like breathing. Those things are great, and they're especially important, when you're sleeping, and your subconscious is like the boss at that situation. But, you're awake 2/3 of the day most of the time. So you have to understand that when you're conscious, when you're awake, obviously, those autopilot things like breathing and digesting and the whole blood situation, obviously they are also running when you are consciously awake. But again, when you are awake, you should run most of the time with your conscious mind, because the conscious mind is the thing that will really help you improve, especially if you have a lot of bad habits that you really want to change. You're not going to change them with your subconscious unless you know how to reprogram your subconscious mind. So again, your conscious mind, when you're awake, needs to be the boss of your life, because you need to make decisions consciously. We take decisions like all day, really, you could say, like no matter what you're doing, it's a decision. You always decide against something else. So what you have to understand is that when you are conscious, when you are awake, you need to use that consciousness to move towards your goals. And the way you're going to do that is by taking active decisions towards something that will improve you, towards getting a step closer to your goal or to your vision, or towards a project or whatever it is you're working on. Okay? Because of course, like, habits are the things that are running on autopilot, and you have habits at the moment, you have routines at the moment, even if you're not aware of them. So in order for you to become more efficient, more successful, more healthy, whatever it is you're envisioning for yourself, you need to make sure that your habits, your routines will move you forward in that goal. And in order for them to be able to do that, they need to be positive, they need to be bringing you forward. And I will give you a very easy example. For example, if you have a morning routine where you're not really doing anything, you're just like slowly starting your day, and just take time as it comes, do whatever you want. Whereas if you have a morning routine where you get really clear on what it is you have to do that day, you are aware of the time that you have, it's a totally different situation, because then you have built a good habit that will move you forward, and you don't have to think about it. If your morning routine is built in a way that you are already on autopilot, working towards your goals, towards your dreams, or doing exercise to keep your body healthy, drinking enough water to stay hydrated, that can be an autopilot, that can be a routine that will be a part of your day, and you don't even have to think about it. But again, on day 9 we will talk more about routines and habit. I just really want you to understand how this is connected with your brain now. So again, if you want to build routines, if you want to change your life, if you want to become a better person with yourself, especially with a growth mindset, it is important for you to use your brain in any situation. And again, the reason why I already talk about habits and routines now, it's just for you to understand that those are based on your brain and how your brain runs. Again, the brain wants to save energy, so it runs on autopilot. So you, with your conscious mind, have to make sure that you program this autopilot in a way that it will move you forward, that it will help you, get better at something. It will help you reach your goal. I've said it now many times before, but it's really important for you to understand. The easiest way for you to do that is understanding how your brain learns. So now that you know how it works, you have to understand how it learns as well. So again, your brain really wants to always run the shortest ways. It always wants to take the least amount of action in order to complete a task. So basically the way it does it, I will not use like too scientific experiences. I've tried to really use it with like everyday language. So if you think about your brain, for example, as a fishnet, you have all of these connections. And the more you learn, the more of these connections you will have, and the more connections you will have, the shorter the way between each touch point kind of will become. So that is also the reason why people who know a lot, they have studied a lot or they know a lot in a certain area, it will become so much easier for them to learn new things because they have way more connections. The way between those connections are shorter. So when those connections, or the way between the connections are shorter, they will take less energy for the brain to process and put into action. And that's why it's really important to connect the things that you're learning with things that you already know. Because again, shorter connections, less energy, and it will be easier for you to A, remember, and B, put it into practice. So you have to think of your brain as a muscle. I mean, it is a muscle, but it is a muscle that you can also train. So take a runner, for example. Somebody who's running marathons today wasn't born a runner. He or she wasn't born with the stamina to run the marathon. No, they had to train consistently and really hard to bring their body into a position, into a physical position to run that marathon. And that includes, their muscles, their stamina, also their mentality, because it's not easy to run a marathon. And they had to do that with a growth mindset, because they understood that I cannot be a runner now. Most of the people, when they start running, they run like 100 or 200 meters at a time. Then they walk and they run again and they run again. And the more often they do that, the longer these periods or the distance that they can run will become. So in a sense, it's the same thing with your brain. The more you exercise it, the more you really grow it in a sense, increase its capacity, the easier it would be for you to learn new things and to stick to them, most importantly, to make them run on autopilot, like I've said now hundreds of times before. And it's also really important to keep working on your brain. Just because somebody has been a runner, I'm just taking the example of a runner, it doesn't mean that they will be a runner all of their lives. If they've been physically super fit for a decade or something, and then they stop exercising exercising, obviously they're not going to stay in shape. They will lose their stamina, they will lose their muscle mass. But over time, if they don't exercise, if they start eat bad, they will even gain weight. Even if they've been a runner, it doesn't mean that they will stay a runner their whole life if they don't keep on it. So it's the same with your brain. If you don't consistently exercise it and train it, it's not going to stay the way. It will lose those connections. So those connections will become longer again. Or, if you let laziness and fear kick in, we're going to talk about fear tomorrow, it will be more difficult for your brain to run on autopilot efficiently. Because if it will be easier for him to do nothing, it will definitely do that. Because again, that is something that will take less energy. So it's easier for your brain, and it thinks that this is what will make you happy. So again, if you really want to rewire your brain, it's important that you understand the difference between your conscious and your subconscious mind, how your brain works, how it learns, and how you can build habits, productive habits, efficient habits, and that will, in the best case scenario, help you reach your goals on autopilot or with the least amount of effort. And the good thing is that, your brain really wants you to be happy. It wants you to feel, gratitude. It wants you to feel accomplished, all of those positive emotions. So it does try to get you there if only you really set your mind to it and your habits and your actions towards that. Because, those emotions, they can become like a high. Your brain really wants to feel that high and have all of those endorphins and the really positive emotions and hormones even. So, being in that state can become an addiction, and you can really train your brain. I am saying it again. You can really train your brain to be more efficient, to be more effective, and to really help you become the version of yourself that you've always wanted to become. And this is why I just love the sentence, rewire your brain for success. So now that I've repeated those things over and over again, I'm sure that you have grasped on what I wanted to say, and you can use that for your today's task. So in order for you to recognize at what state your brain is at the moment, and by that I mean what are your current autopilots, you have to understand what you're doing on a day-to-day basis. So what I want you to do is write down your habits. Be honest with yourself. Again, this whole BIZember series is about you being honest with yourself, because only when you accept the way you currently are and apply, a growth mindset in that situation, you can really make the big changes that you need to be successful, that you need to have in order for you to become the better version of yourself. So again, you have to be really honest with when you're answering this question. You don't have to show it to anyone. It's just really for yourself to know, okay, this is where I'm at, and now I have to take action. And I will tell you how to take action in this upcoming month. So again, your task for today, now we're actually getting to it. I want you to write down your current habits, everything that you're doing. If you have routines, it doesn't matter, like I said, if they are good or bad habits, just write them down and get clear on them. And once you have written them down, always leave like a little bit of space after them, and then write down, this is the habit because I have developed it over X amount of time. Or again, this is like the routine that I have developed over X amount of time. And then the most important part is right after this habit, one of three things. The first one is, I want to stick to this habit, or I want to stick to this routine because, a good reason could be because it keeps me productive, because it keeps me healthy, because it keeps me motivated. Those would be good reasons to stick to a habit. Then the second option could be, I want to modify or improve this habit or routine, because I could become more healthy, I could become more productive, or it's not very efficient yet, or it doesn't match with my style yet. That could be good reasons for you to modify them. And the last one would be really, I have this habit, for example, if you have like a nail biting habit, or you are really lazy in certain situations, or you're simply not an action taker, then you can write down, okay, this is the habit or routine that I've developed over X amount of time, and I want to break it because it doesn't move me further, because it doesn't keep me healthy, because it actually makes me a lazy person, or because it moves me away from my goals. That's the task for today. And if you're having trouble finding enough reasons, I would really try for you to have about 5 to 10. Start with your day, just like see what you're doing throughout the day. For example, like 3 things in the morning, 3 things in the evening, 3 things during the day. A lot of people, they have like this afternoon crush. So you can again try to figure out why you are crashing throughout the afternoon, just as an example. So again, your task for today, write down your habits, identify where they come from, and then decide for yourself if you want to keep them, if you want to change them, if you want to break them. Okay? Cool, super excited. I am really happy for you to get to know yourself better in that sense. And now you have to take action. And if you don't feel like writing everything down, I have a workbook. You can go to the link in the description box, register yourself for my newsletter, and then you can download the workbook from there. I will have a workbook for every single day of the series. So even if you haven't downloaded the workbooks from my previous videos, there will be a follow-up email that you will receive, and then there will be the links to all of the workbooks that I have uploaded so far. So even if it's already 2020 or 2030, it doesn't matter. You will still have access to my workbooks via the link in the description box below. So that's it from me from today. If you like the series and if you really want to turn yourself into a better version and make 2020 your most successful, most productive year ever, then consider subscribing, because like I said, BIZember is going to last throughout the whole month of December and I have a lot of very exciting things coming up that will really help you start 2020 on January 21st with a clear vision, with clear financial goals, and with a clear action plan. That's what we're going to do. And also, if you want, come over to my Instagram, let me know that you're coming from YouTube, just send me a DM. And also, I would really love to know in the comment section down below which habit you really want to break right now, or which habit or routine it is that you think that is currently really helping you to move forward. Let me know, and I'm looking forward to see you tomorrow. Bye!